The details of this crime are darker than your worst nightmares.
What's in my head telling me you did it wrong, you're on the same time. Go ahead, keep doing it, keep doing it. They telling me keep kill again, keep take this up, keep doing it. Kill it too.
What followed was a murder so brutal, so utterly monstrous, that even the U.S. Supreme Court turned a deaf ear to Pablo's pleas, not just once, but twice.
This case hits like a gut punch. A 12-year-old boy, David, full of life, walks into a party and never comes home. The sheer brutality of what Pablo did, it's beyond comprehension. How does someone sink so low? As we hear his chilling confession, you can't help but feel rage and sorrow for David's family. What drives a person to such darkness? Let's dive into this tragedy to uncover the horror, honor David's memory, and question how justice serves those left behind.
The man who killed 12-year-old David Cardenas.
David Cardenas was just a 12-year-old child on the night of April 18, 1998, when Pablo Lucio Vasquez snatched his life away.
I don't know, better back then, I blacked out. I started hearing voices in my head. And I told my cousin that somebody told me to kill him.
But this wasn't just a confession. It was the haunting revelation of a man who almost... It's important to first look back at April 18, 1998, and unravel the events leading up to this crime. On the evening of April 18th, David was last seen at a neighborhood party. When he didn't come home, his family's worry quickly turned to dread. Then, on April 19, 1998, an anonymous tip shook Hidalgo County. This anonymous tip mentioned that a 12-year-old boy named David Cardenas had been murdered at that very party. What exactly happened on April 18th was shrouded in mystery. The investigation began with more questions than answers, but detectives were able to identify 15-year-old Andres Chapa as a suspect. Police also found out something interesting. Andres, also known as Andy, was actually David's friend and the one who invited him to the party. Through his testimony, detectives were able to find 1998. What the detectives found while discovering David's body left them in sheer shock. The autopsy report exposed the chilling details of the murder. A deep wound at the top of the head, a slashed throat, one arm completely severed, another partially detached, skin torn from the boy's back, several brutal facial wounds, likely from a heavy tool. Each finding painted a picture more disturbing than the last. Detectives now faced the pressing question: what could drive someone to commit such a savage attack on a 12?
The autopsy. Details are haunting. David suffered unimaginable pain. As a parent, I can't fathom the terror he felt. Pablo's cold recounting makes it worse. It's like he's describing a chore, not a child's life. This isn't just a crime, it's a betrayal of humanity. The legal system faced a monster, but could it have been stopped earlier? Were there signs in Pablo's past that we missed? As we hear his detached voice, these questions linger, revealing a broken mind. Let's keep David's story alive to demand better answers.
Once arrested, Pablo wastes no time confessing. But this isn't just an ordinary admission. It is far more disturbing than anything the detectives had expected.
Okay, Pablo, can you tell us what occurred? I want you to start since Friday.
Friday the 17th of April. Me, Andy, and David went to a party. And we got invited to that party. So first we had our dog. We walked in the dog, and then we got there. So they asked us if we could come back. So we did. We took the dog home and came back. And we were there. They asked us to work here. So we started drinking again. And we stayed there for at least 2 or 3 hours until it was over.
What time did you get there?
Like 9. First it was early in the daytime. It was day school. And then we got back. We took off. I came back. And me and Andy and David came back. And they said we wanted to drink. So I got a beer. I was drinking. the beer finished, so they passed a bottle of liquor, and I became liquor. And I remember by the time I was really buzzing.
What type of liquor?
I don't know if it was Presidente. Because it was strong, they poured a lot into mine. I was already feeling drunk. So somebody smoked there, so I started smoking some too. And I did boxing and everything.
You did what?
Coke. I did some. Yeah, I was really loaded.
Soon discovers that things took a dark turn as the three left the party that night.
What time did you guys go home?
It was about 12. It wasn't really like gonna be Saturday morning that night. It wasn't the daytime. I didn't know where that little guy was gonna go. He took off.
What little guy?
David. I don't know where he was going, so he followed us. He went with us. They gave us the right to the house. Me and Andy were there. He went to the back. I went inside. And I came to the back. And I told him what's up with your plan. And he said, I don't know. He wasn't waiting in the back. And I don't know if they were back there. I blacked out. I started hearing voices in my head. And I told my cousin that somebody told me to kill him. So I snuck up on him. And he fell down.
Where'd you hit him with?
The pipe.
Where'd you get the pipe at?
It was on the floor, like where he was at. And he looked at me at first, but then Andy looked at me too, and like he just didn't have my feelings and nothing.
Did Andy try to stop you before you hit him?
No. Well, he didn't say nothing. He just looked at it like he thought something was wrong, and so I stopped. And
Where'd you hit him at? What was he doing when you hit him behind the head?
Just looking at me. And then he said something, I don't know. And he was right there. And he was still alive.
When you hit him 3 or 4 times, where did you hit him at?
He was still alive. And they told me, you killed him. And I go, no, he's not dead, he's still alive. So I went inside. And Andy was getting everything like stuff ready, so I told him we were going to bury him. And he said, yeah. And I got him. And we took him. And Andy had the shovel.
Okay, you went inside for what?
Huh?
What did you go inside for?
I just went inside to go check inside. Like, if anybody had heard anything.
Was anybody awake?
Yeah. And like, nobody was awake. So we came back outside.
Confess after this is beyond comprehension.
And then he was still like, talking and stuff. And I picked him up. I just put him on my shoulder like that, and I carried him. And I threw him on the floor because he was too heavy. And I grabbed him from my hand. I picked him up, I grabbed him. And he was still saying something. And I picked him up in the air, and the blood was dripping. He got all over my face. So I don't know, and something just from like until we drink the wine in the morning. And
You drunk what?
his blood. And I don't know, and my face was craning with his blood. And I put him down because I felt weird. I don't know. And then my cousin said he's still alive or something like that. And I took him across the road, like, what was that name? In the area where they found him.
When Pablo describes drinking David's blood, there is a subtle yet unsettling excitement in his voice. This shift in demeanor, no matter how slight, speaks volumes about the nature of his psyche. It is a hallmark of psychopathy, a trait often seen in individuals who derive pleasure from revisiting their violent actions. For people like Pablo, reliving the moment of horror serves as a source of gratification. Psychopaths often lack empathy, but they compensate for that emotion.
Pablo's confession about drinking David's blood. It's sickening. That faint excitement in his voice? It's a window into a psychopath's mind, relishing the horror. My heart aches for David, fighting to live through such cruelty. This moment screams for justice, but it also begs us to ask, where were the adults who could have intervened? Pablo's family stayed silent, shielding a killer. That complicity cuts deep. As we hear more, let's reflect on how we protect the vulnerable and confront evil before it festers.
Question of everything. And I I panicked, so I knew just go put him back there. So we took him back there, and we started digging the hole. And the dirt was too hard, so we just dug a little tiny hole, and I put him there. And by the time I was just finding stuff to cover him up with, and we covered him, and put grass and pieces of wood on it. And by the time I realized, I took off his ring, but I lost it somewhere right there, and his chain was busted. I threw that away too. And from then on, we walked to Randy's house, and I took a shower, and my cousin got the clothes that was full of blood, because I was wearing.
Your cousin who?
Andy. He got the boxers that I was wearing were covered with blood, and he told his mom that he was cooling or something like that. And
His mom was awake?
no, she wasn't. In the morning, they asked us, "Well, why are you doing so late? Coming home so late?" So we were drunk, and yeah, and
He mentions his desire to take his own life out of guilt. His voice and body language tell a different story. His confession is rushed, as if he's more eager to escape the interrogation than deal with any real remorse. This disconnect raises questions about the authenticity of his guilt. What's even more unsettling is the reaction of his family. While David's family was devastated after finding their son in that condition, Pablo's family tried to shield him after the crime he committed. Despite Pablo's admission to one of his uncles, no one in his family reported the murder. This complicity is as disturbing as the crime itself. This reaction points to a deeply ingrained dysfunction within the family dynamics. In this case, the family's silence becomes a form of complicity, deepening the disturbing nature.
The autopsy says that someone, we don't know who, the piece of his back off. There was a knife. How did
it wasn't me. It was probably other. But I don't think I did do that. I think when we dragged him, because we dragged him on the cement, maybe the cement stripped his back.
No, there was a nice cut all the way across his back, like a knife, or like somebody took a knife to his back and cut it, you know, and they cut it off.
We were trying to cut off his head. They were trying to cut off his head to show, kept hitting him and hitting him.
Who was?
Me and Andy, because we were trying just to take him.
What was your reason for trying to cut off his head?
The devil was telling me to take it away from him.
Who was?
The devil was telling me to take it away from him, to keep it, and it couldn't come up. And I was just freaking out because I was hearing it.
And what about Andy? What was he hearing?
I don't know, he was just like, I don't know, he was just like going with it too, I guess.
Did Andy blood?
No, he threw up. He saw me. I told him, why did you do that? He was telling me to do that. And he just went along when we did it.
Have you gone back? Did you go back the next day on Saturday to go see him?
No, I didn't go back.
You never went back after that night?
Pablo confesses that even after repeatedly hitting
David's prolonged suffering is unbearable to hear. Pablo's flat tone, treating a child's fight for life as an inconvenience, chills me to the core. This wasn't just murder, it was torture. As someone who believes in second chances, I struggle here. Pablo's untreated mental turmoil led to this, but does that excuse it? The law said no, and I agree, but my heart breaks for what could have been prevented. David deserved better. Let's hold space for his family's pain and ask how we stop the next tragedy.
died faster. The coldness in his tone shows a shocking lack of empathy, almost as if David's resilience was a mere inconvenience rather than the desperate fight for survival of a terrified child. It is clear for the detectives to see that there is something extremely wrong with Pablo. As they push him more, Pablo confesses to something very intense about himself.
Have you ever felt like that before?
Yeah, when I was in California.
How long ago was this?
Before I came from California.
How long ago was this?
Like 2 days before Christmas. But I got here on New Year's. I was on the bus right here on Christmas. And I was here on New Year's Day.
Had you been drinking when you heard that the first time in December?
So I was on, there was some other drug that they have out there called,
Where is this at, in California?
you know,
And
I got addicted to that, and actually like addicted, but I stayed up for 2 whole weeks without sleep, and I was dressed in black, and it was the middle of the night, and I tried to talk with you, and I tied a rope on it, and I put a rope on my neck, and my uncle was calling me, and I told him that I couldn't get down because somebody told me to jump, and if I jumped, the rope was gonna take me.
what's your uncle's name?
My uncle, Guero,
What's his name?
I don't know his full name, but
Where's this at?
California.
What part of California?
Hidalgo County, Visalia.
Is that where he lives at, in Visalia?
Yeah.
Pablo Vasquez confessed to the murder following his arrest and was indicted on capital murder charges for David Cardenas' death and the theft of his jewelry. In March 1999, he was convicted and sentenced to death in Hidalgo County. After years of multiple appeals, Pablo was executed on April 6, 2016, at the age of 38. Andres, being a minor at the time, was also convicted but received a 35-year sentence. He became eligible for parole in 2015 but was denied, eventually receiving it in 2020.
Even earlier in the day, he had expressed remorse over the crime and was trying to figure out how exactly he would say that to the family.
In Pablo's final hour, both his and David's families were present. Justice, long awaited, was finally served.
Vasquez begins his statement. It says, "It's time." He says, "You got your justice," and apologizes to the victim's family. 6:10. His cousins say, "I love you" against the glass and make hearts with their hands. 6:11. The lethal dose begins. 6:35. The lethal injection process is over.
The impact of one man's crime left a haunting mark on both families, forever altering their lives in ways they could never have imagined. Pablo Vasquez's crime was not just a horrific act of violence, but a reflection of deeper psychological issues that went unaddressed for far too long. Could early intervention have prevented David from this tragedy? How much responsibility lies with those who chose to conceal the truth rather than confront it? Share your thoughts in the comments section.
Justice was served, but at what cost? David's family waited 18 years for closure, while Pablo's final words offered little solace. This case leaves scars in families and on us as viewers. It forces us to face uncomfortable truths about mental health, family failures, and justice's limits. I'm left wondering, could early help for Pablo have saved David? Let's honor David by advocating for change, better support, louder warnings, stronger communities. His life mattered. Please share your thoughts below. Let's keep this conversation alive.